Joe Burrow, there's no official timetable for him, but the reports say minimum 3 months. Are we dropping Joe Burrow?
Do you have an IR in your league?
No.
Then you're dropping Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Wait. Is it a keeper league?
Okay. Kevin Stefanski brushed off talk of a quarterback change for now. I still worry about this situation, guys, because the Browns are 0-2. Their next 2 games are Green Bay and then at Detroit. So what happens if they're 0-4? Do we have to keep this in the back of our mind here as we pick up Tillman, as we pick up Harold Fannin, who's still widely available?
I wouldn't worry so much about Fannin because I think what Dillon Gabriel does will be okay for him. I mean, in the case of Tillman, clearly he's benefited now in the 6 games that he's been fantasy relevant, from the majority of that being Jameis Winston and Joe Flacco, 2 of the biggest gunslingers we've had in the last, 3-4 years. So yes, there'd be a concern, but I'd like to see how this plays out because they're still going to be throwing the ball so much.
Okay, and Jayden Daniels with the knee injury. So Marcus Mariota actually was very good last year in 2 games where he replaced Jayden Daniels. 23.6 fantasy points against the Panthers, 30 fantasy points at Dallas. Those are 2 of the worst defenses in football last year, but Mariota played really well. He'll get the Raiders, who really haven't been that bad defensively through 2 games. JJ McCarthy, high ankle sprain. The speculation is 2 to 4 weeks. Bengals this week for him, and Carson Wentz is his replacement. I don't think anyone eclipsed 300 yards last night, but at least 6 quarterbacks threw for more yards in week 2 than JJ McCarthy has thrown for in the entire season so far. So they've thrown for 150 yards per game. Should get better no matter who's the quarterback. We've got Justin Fields with the concussion, could be Tyrod Taylor at Tampa Bay. And we've got some running back news. Aaron Jones left with a hamstring injury, and he seems unlikely to play this week. They get Cincinnati, so it could be a good.
I think I know my start of the week is, by the
way. So Jordan Mason going to be starting a lot of leagues against the Bengals. Brian Thomas Jr. had a wrist injury going into week 2. I think many of you saw the clip circulating. He alligator armed a few of them. He just seemed to be shying away from contact. Maybe the wrist injury for Brian Thomas Jr. was the reason for that. He gets Houston this week. It's going to be interesting. He's going to get shadowed by Stingley. As I recall, he had success. I have to go back and watch it. He had a lot of success against Stingley last year. Jaden Reed, 6 to 8 weeks with a broken collarbone. So Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, who do we want there? We'll discuss that. Xavier Worthy trending toward a week 3 return. Are you guys ready to drop Marquise Brown for your desired waiver wire option?
I wouldn't do that yet. I think Marquise Brown is certainly in the same kind of range that Wandale and Tillman and all these other guys, at least for the short term. We just don't know what this is going to look like, with still Rice out for another couple of weeks. So if you want to go that route, that Rice is returning and you're looking long term, I get it. Tillman and Wandale and Shaheed and even Christian Kirk. But look what the Cowboys just did to the Giants. And we may see Mahomes come out and have a very strong game. Wouldn't shock me at all, clearly. And so wouldn't be surprised if Marquise Brown does something of significance.
I would just hold on to him until we're sure that Xavier Worthy's playing. And then even when Worthy's playing, I think Jamie's right. There's a chance that Brown can be useful as a number 3 receiver. But long-term, like if you're making a long-term decision, like no chance you're starting Hollywood Brown this week and you want to try and, get that tight end you need or a quarterback, then yes, Brown is droppable.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like I picked up Brown last week in a league where I had no intention of starting him. It was more, I had nobody really that I needed. My lineup was fine, but I had a roster spot to, sort of, play with a little bit, and now I'll drop him.
Tucker Kraft is a big liar. He said he had never had a 100-yard game before. He actually had 2 in college. So, quite frankly, I don't know if I could roster someone that I can't trust, but I will make an exception for Tucker Kraft. There's a lot of offensive line news. The Buccaneers super beat up, but they just keep on ticking. They're down both tackles right now. San Francisco guard Ben Barch.
Baker's like, I'll see your 40 touchdowns and I'll raise you.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, it could have been a better game for him, obviously, but they ran with Rashad White touchdown at the end was anticlimactic for fantasy purposes. Dallas center Cooper Beebe is going to be out a long time with an injury. Minnesota's beat up. Maybe they get Darisaw back this week. That'd be nice. Titans are beat up right now. So this is a big deal, I think. I'm going to end with this, then we'll get into the waiver wire.
This is a good
the Panthers, right? So they got, remember, a couple years ago, they go out and they improve their interior offensive line. Part of the reason for that, other than the obvious, is being better, is that they have a small quarterback and you don't want pressure in his face. So they knew, and I remember reading this, I'm not just making this up. They knew they had to be, better in the interior offensive line for the pocket for Bryce Young. Now you've got Austin Corbett and Rob Hunt on IR. So, how does this affect, Dave? How does this affect the Panthers offense going forward?
Going to open the door for more pass rush pressure on Bryce Young for sure.
Yeah.
That being said, he had 169 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals were without some of their starting corners for most or all of the fourth quarter, so that could have played a big role in there. But I think it's going to be a little treacherous for anybody who's like running routes of 12 plus yards on a semi-regular basis in Carolina. This is one of the reasons why I think Jatavion Sanders could have some staying power, because he can run those shorter routes. Ted McMillan can run those shorter routes too. They can work on getting the ball out fast. They can work on getting Bryce Young on the move a little bit more, and they're going to have to do that. I think the Hunt injury is the one that's way more concerning than the Corbett.
And don't forget about Hunter Renfrow. I mean, he had a big game too, so he's involved here. But
Came
just
up
keep
big
in
in the
mind,
fourth
Bryce
quarter.
Young threw 55 times. Like, everybody got a chance to get an opportunity.
He had a whole game's worth of attempts in the fourth quarter, 30 attempts.
Well, Falcons DST, by the way, 7% rostered, coming off a 6-sack performance at Minnesota. They're not
that defense
bad.
looks great.
Yeah, I mean, they stunk against the Bucs, but they were great at Minnesota, and now they face the Panthers, who are giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to DSTs.